make a location. See, I'm a story writer, and I've got a lot of original characters. Like, a lot. Unfortunately, while I've got a lot of ideas for the different locations and settings I want these characters in, I actually don't have a lot of art of these locations. And that's because backgrounds are hard. Now, don't get me wrong, I can draw a decent background, but there's a difference between a background and an environment. I want these drawn locations to be more than just one-off backgrounds for art. I want them to be locations that my characters will return to, and maybe, if I can get the golden trifecta of time, motivation, and inspiration, I should make a video game with them. And that means I need concept art and direction, more than just what you would see in an illustration. Now, there's a problem with this. I don't understand concept art. At least not like the concept art I've seen of just random beautiful landscapes. The people who make concept art are geniuses, seriously. My brain can barely figure out depth perception in real life, and there's people out there designing whole new objects and places with just 2D art in their brain. I also just don't understand building architecture, so that probably is part of my problem. But I want to learn, or at least learn enough to fake it. Good enough that you won't think about it. So let's start small. First, let's pick an easy location. One of my newest characters is designed to fill a couple roles I've been putting off for a while, but recently I managed to hyper-focus on designing an entire magic and glyph system for that magic system that works without it being a nightmare, and the inspiration finally hit with this character. Meet Neith. Neith is known as the Weaver, a somewhat hermit of a guy who hangs out in space and weaves a very special magic fabric that's great for spellcasters who hate armor and also don't want to get murked. I don't have too many ideas for Neith's home other than 1, small, 2, space, and 3, water. It's something celestial and pretty cool or whatever. Which is great because this is small, concrete, and isn't going to get too much out of hand. So let's kind of just dig into it. This is my toxic friend, The Sims 4. I don't want to talk about the amount of money I've put into this game, and I don't want to talk about the number of mods I've had. Let's just talk about building. Whenever I have to draw an interior or any sort of building with like zero reference, there's a pretty strong chance I've hopped into something like The Sims just to kind of wrap my brain around it. If you've ever seen those infographics where it's just like people visualize things and it's got like a fancy, cool, beautiful shaded apple on one side and then like a gradient of things all the way to the other side where it's just a person with an empty brain, I'm a solid person with an empty brain. I don't really visualize things in my brain, and everyone who can kind of terrifies me a little bit. So, tools like The Sims, Minecraft, or actual tools designed for this, like SketchUp, are kind of basically a requirement when I'm designing something that is a building or has any sort of architecture to it. I can draw plants pretty well, and like putting some trees in a forest is not that difficult for me, and it's kind of easier for me to visualize with my brain, but anything with too many angles, and I just go, ugh. And it also helps that with more natural, organic environments, photo bashing is a really easy tool to just kind of dig into real quick and throw something together, and it still work out and feel natural and real in your brain. But when you try to do that with architecture, like the perspective just goes off and everything just looks wrong, and I'm not that great at photo manipulation, so that's out for anything architecture related. So here we are in The Sims, building something funky to put together just as sort of a basis of what I want for this environment. Now, when I imagine a lot of these areas for the more celestial beings in my stories, I do take a lot from like Greek and Roman vibes, because I'm unoriginal, and stealing from cultures I at least know decent enough about to not piss somebody off is fun. And they're pretty. I do hate drawing interiors though, and I do want Neith's home to be really open and airy, so I'm gonna put off learning how to draw walls for another day, and we're just not gonna add any to this. And here we are. This looks like crap, but that's fine. We're not in The Sims to build something gorgeous and beautiful on the first try. We're here to get an idea of what I'm looking for. Because like I said, I can't visualize anything in my brain. I have to have it visualized outside of it. And that's what I use The Sims for. And also, in general, when I build in The Sims, I either get a hot mess like this, or somehow weirdly perfectly what I was looking for, which is very rare, and very cool when it does happen. Like, look at this, oh my gosh. Now, this isn't the end of sort of the conceptualization stage. Like I said, this is just a basis of what I want to work off of, especially for the more architectural elements being the floor and the pillars themselves, and just kind of the shape of things. So I'm going to move this over to Procreate, and I'm going to delete like 90% of what I did because I hated it. The cave in the background with all the rocks and stuff was a neat idea, and the plants were really cool, but in practice it just made it all feel so claustrophobic for what I'm imagining for Neith and what I feel like his home would look like. I also wanted the curtains to be a little bit more flowy, and I will keep some of the smaller plants because if I don't get to draw any, I will be very sad. You'll also notice that I changed it to grayscale because colors are hard and I don't want to think about them right now. I'll think about them later. They can really muddy things up when you're still in this sort of shaping stage for things like this. So we're just gonna ignore them for now. You'll also notice that I changed the floor design. I saw this really pretty picture on Pinterest that was fairly similar to this, and it really struck me as something I would really imagine in Neith's home. Neith, their name actually comes from the Egyptian goddess Neith, who is a goddess of water and knowledge and such, and I really wanted to tie that into Neith's character as my own character as well, just as a sort of callback to the origins of the name. So I did tie that in a little bit with here, and you'll see that a little bit more later. And in the end, we end up with this, which isn't bad. I actually don't hate this. It really encapsulates more of the feel of what I want, and at its base is a really good sort of starting concept for drawing the final concept art that I want here. And that basically covers all of the steps up until the final concept of this background. In fact, the rest is something you've seen before. I mean, it's the main thing I really post on this channel, which is just a time lapse.